Okay, folks, it is October 31st, Halloween, and I have 10 big stories for you. So we're going to start here. And I never thought I'd spend so much time talking about North Korea, but I can't not talk about it. Western intelligence officials reportedly stated that North Korean troops are in an unspecified area in occupied Ukraine at this moment. And we can see other things related to it. South Korea reveals what the DPRK may ask the Kremlin in exchange for military aid. They're now coming out and saying, well, they're trying to get nuclear weapons, tactical nuclear technology, and that will add to their ability to strike whoever they want to strike. Now, we've been speculating about it, but South Korea is coming out and saying, yeah, this is what it is at this point. Despite essentially every Western intelligence agency reporting the opposite, Russia calls reports of North Korean troops being sent to participate in the war against Ukraine disinformation. In spite that we know the ISW is just reporting that they're there. This is the Russian ambassador to the UN. The transfer of North Korean troops to Russia is disinformation. Quote, the performance that we saw today is an attempt to justify their decision to send NATO troops to support the regime of the Ukrainian president. Right. They're making this up in order to put NATO boots on the ground in Ukraine. That's what he's saying. North Korea has launched a new intercontinental ballistic missile toward the Sea of Japan, as if what was going on in Ukraine wasn't enough. They're launching stuff making the Japanese nervous. The missile was in the air for 86 minutes, traveling 1,000 kilometers and reaching an altitude of about 7,000 kilometers, according to Japanese authorities. This is a record for the history of North Korean tests. South Korean military intelligence believes the missile is capable of hitting the U.S. mainland. And so this is North Korea, and it landed here. This is Japan. So how about that? North Korea claims that it has conducted the longest test of an intercontinental ballistic missile, stating that it demonstrates the country's readiness to respond to its enemies. Okay, Putin's terror coalition, says Jay in Kyiv, will eventually restrict most necessary raw materials, manufactured goods, from getting into U.S. hands. Now, think about this. This is really interesting here. So, the biggest U.S. drone maker, which supplies Ukraine with drones for intelligence gathering, is facing a supply chain crisis after China bans the company from selling batteries to the group. That's interesting, right? So you can sanction, or you could just restrict from selling certain things, and that's what's going on here. Now, this is one of the reasons that Taiwan's important, because Taiwan is actually one of the largest chip manufacturers in the world. They do the largest rate of them and highest quality. Okay, EU countries may consider establishing their own nuclear deterrent system, but in the short term, efforts should focus on enhancing conventional military capabilities. Right now, we got bigger fish to fry. Conventionally, we got to draw up these weapons and make sure Ukraine has stuff, make sure we have stuff in case Russia decides to get antsy in the Baltic states, right? But long term, they're thinking about creating their own nuclear umbrella and not relying on the United States. This is according to a man who's been nominated for the position of European Commissioner for Defense and Space in the new European Commission. So that's just amazing to me that they're even having that conversation. But they need to be thinking forward thinking. Okay. Meanwhile, another story, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy officially dismissed the Prosecutor-General Kostin following investigations revealing numerous government officials allegedly evaded military service by falsely claiming disability benefits. So corruption's still happening, but they're at least trying to root it out. And so we get one of these stories every couple weeks. Another big story, did they ask if it's right for North Korea to supply arms to Russia for the same answer? So what's Darth Putin talking about? Well, this is Yulia Navalnaya. This is Navalny's widow, saying it's hard to say. The war was unleashed by Vladimir Putin, but the bombs also are hitting Russians. She's responding to the question by a German newspaper saying, is it right to supply weapons to Ukraine? And well, it's hard to say. I mean, those bombs are also hitting Russians. It's Putin's war, but it's hitting Russians. But as Darth Putin points out, did they ask if it's right for North Korea to supply arms to Russia for the same answer? That's a really good question. Okay, and here is Euromaidan Press. It's Kyiv, not Kiev. And it took nearly 33 years for this German newspaper to change the spelling of Ukraine's capital from Russian to Ukrainian. Yeah. Okay, so maybe your friends in the West are not all that quick. Okay, Ukraine has received only 10% of the latest approved aid from the U.S. So what we're going to hear here is this gentleman is asking, and he's consistently asking questions about Ukraine and getting pretty terrible answers about why things are happening so slowly. And that was the biggest non-answer possible from the State Department spokesperson. Yeah, so if you had at least said there's things in the pipeline, it takes time for things to get there, that would somewhat be understandable. The supply chain issue, or we have to create and then send you our backfill or something along those lines. But he didn't even get that far. Now, there's another issue here. Poland wants to be able to shoot down Russian drones and missiles, and it doesn't look like the U.S. is going to allow it. U.S. lawmakers urge Biden to allow Poland to intercept missiles over Ukraine. This is the Commission on Security and Cooperation in Europe. They share that responsibility as the Republican, who's the Republican Party in the House has a majority. So the Republican is the chairman, and the co-chairman is Ben Cardin. So they're saying, hey, we strongly urge your administration to grant Poland the authority to intercept and neutralize missiles over Ukraine, particularly those threatening to encroach on Polish airspace. Poland's foreign minister, Sikorski, has recently made requests to this effect, and we believe that providing this capability is a necessary step in defending NATO territory and safeguarding one of our most critical allies. But are they going to do it? I wouldn't hold my breath. Okay. Another comment on this, Biden used to say that NATO would defend every inch of NATO territory. Now, Poland and Romania are not even allowed by NATO, by the U.S., not allowed to shoot down Iranian Russian drones passing over their territory. This is nonsense. He's right. This is nonsense. Do you think Biden will allow it? The U.S. Helsinki Commission is saying this. Poland has requested U.S. permission to shoot down Russian missiles over Ukraine, but I just don't see it forthcoming. Now, we're just a few days from the election. Maybe that'll have something to do with it, but I'm not holding my breath that that's going to be the thing that changes it either. Okay, next big story. A blaze broke out at a research institute in Moscow Oblast specializing in weaponry and missile development. Now, a blaze can break out anywhere, but because of the nature of this particular entity, it seems like there was something to it. Local sources indicated that the fire caused significant damage to the facility. Here's the actual article in the Euromaidan Press. In Moscow Oblast, Russia, blaze broke out in a scientific research institute. It's for special engineering. The facility manufactures parts of Russian missile and space technology, among other sectors. The official cause of the fire has not been disclosed. However, the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations claims that the installation materials allegedly caught fire, and there are no reported casualties. I bet there's more to the story than that, but we'll find out over time. Okay. Lavrov, next big story. Lavrov is calling Zelensky's plan stupid and schizophrenic. Quote, the West is turning a blind eye by continuing to promote the dead-end, I would even say stupid, peace formula of Zelenskyy, who calls for Russia's surrender. And a couple of weeks ago, he unveiled the equally schizophrenic victory plan. Of course, neither the formula nor that plan, nor fantasies about membership of Kyiv-controlled Ukraine in NATO or the European Union will bring peace in Europe and a closer. Russia wants Ukrainian defeat and submission. Now Gerashenko goes on and says, I think quite appropriately, Russia wants Ukrainian defeat and submission. They would perceive this as the West's defeat, and they would be right. A defeat of Ukraine is a defeat of the West, and that's how. And then they'll be coming back for more, because that's the incentives that we're providing to them. Okay, let's turn to U.S. politics. We're only days out from the presidential election. More than 75,000 people came to the ellipse to see Kamala Harris give her closing arguments. And it was a very large crowd. I mean, let's just be fair. Okay. Then you also have Brett Favre, and he's a well-known football player. He's saying this: I want to address the comment that Joe Biden yesterday said that supporters of Donald Trump are garbage. How dare he say that? Looking out, I see police officers, teachers, nurses, grandparents, students, everyday Americans. Okay. So this was just a gaffe that spun out of control. So what happened was that at a Trump rally, a comedian speaking at the Trump rally stupidly, I think quite stupidly, said that Puerto Rico was a floating island of garbage. Then after that, Biden came out and said this.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Okay, so he said the only garbage I see out there are Trump's supporters. Okay, and so calling the supporters of the other side garbage is a bad idea. But here's what Trump did to capitalize on this. Trump drove a garbage truck to a rally in Wisconsin after Biden called his supporters garbage. How do you like my garbage truck? Here's Trump saying this for a moment.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
So what Trump's really good at is marketing. And I think most politicians wouldn't have taken this kind of risk because of the image of driving a garbage truck is not really the greatest. But the people that already like him are going to absolutely love that he did it, while the other side is going to rightly condemn him for what he's done. Here's CNN as they're rightly condemning him.
Here's the thing. I think it's weird that we're asking Kamala to answer for what Joe Biden said, but we're not asking Trump to answer for what Trump says, right? Like, this is the thing. We're talking about garbage. He's cosplaying as another working class person. But his quote, he's quoted, I mean, you see him at the end of that quote, but his quote from Wisconsin was, "It's not her, it's the people around her. They're scum,
Okay, they're scum. Yeah, so don't call your opponent scum. Don't call your opponent garbage. This is just getting vitriolic, and of course, we're going to see this for another week before the end of the election. Speaking of the end of the election, what's going to happen? I generally show you predicted, not polymarket, and then I also show you, say, 538, and maybe some other swing state polls. Here's one that I haven't shown in a while. This is today. This is the top battleground states according to Real Clear Politics. It's Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. Okay, and here's where they are right now. It's Trump, 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 Harris, Harris, Harris and Harris are for Wisconsin and Michigan, and then Trump, Trump, Trump. If it goes like this, Trump wins the election. That's what, but again, we're 5-6 days out. A lot can change in a short period of time. Now, here's Jake Bro making the pro-Kamala argument for most American voters. Stock market is up 40% over the last year. Inflation is down to 2.4%. Unemployment is only at 4%. National price of gasoline is almost $3. Take-home pay and wages are way up. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have built the strongest and most successful U.S. economy in my lifetime, and about 40% of American voters honestly believe America is failing when literally every other country in the world would trade their economy for our economy without hesitation. Who in the world is doing better than America right now? This is what winning looks like, and MAGA just wants to live in a fantasy world where America is losing unless Trump gets to be our unquestioned dictator. Now, that's a little much, but he's right about all these statistics here. Now, there is a reply here that I want to show you as well, because Alan Beckett's, then why are my groceries and utilities double from what they were 4 years ago? Oh, Biden economics. Okay, it's true. Groceries inflation has caused grocery prices to have spiked over Biden's term. Now, myself, I'm angry every time I go to the grocery store and have to pay the bills for the grocery that has inflated prices. It's just a function of overspending during COVID. But Alan's not wrong, and Jake's not wrong. It's just a matter of which narrative wins the day in the hearts and the minds of the American people. Okay, last little bit from Darth Putin. On Planet Troll, Russia invaded and keeps invading to ensure the profits of American defense contractors. Look at this meme. Start a war, Ukraine. Profit from the war. Profit after the war. Then tell Taiwan, start another war. You know, Ukraine and potentially Taiwan are the victims here, not the aggressors. So, I mean, there's that. Okay, before we go, one last thing. For all members and patrons, we'll do a live stream this Saturday. For board members, that's the highest level of patrons. For board members, we'll do a Zoom the following Saturday. That'll be right after the election. And so thank you for all your support. I really do appreciate. This is just my way of saying thank you while keeping trolls out of the live stream or the Zoom meeting. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for you. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and the coffees. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.